Welcome back to the Scope podcast. This has been a pretty cool week for me, Braith. You're my guest today. I had Laurie earlier in the week.
Saw that. That was unreal, mate.
But I'd also like to start the podcast too, because the reason this is a cool podcast, I don't even know if you remember this, but during the early days at the Roosters, I remember chatting to you. When we used to go back to East Leagues Club, and there was one time where you come to us and it was just about 3 or 4 of us sitting around the table, under 20s boys, and being a first grade, back in those days, it was different too. Like the younger boys, the younger generation now, they're so confident and cocky. But, we didn't speak to the first graders unless we were spoken to. And you were one of those guys. Finchy was another one, mate, that would come up and speak to us boys. So I appreciate you coming on and doing the pod for us, brother.
No worries, mate. It's good to be here, Scope. It's, it's good to see the rise of you and the other boys too, and where you've come in such a short period of time, mate. It's... For me, it's an honour to be on here, and I love what you guys are doing, mate. You're doing a great job, so thanks for having me on, mate.
Appreciate it. That's it. And rolling into the good vibes, mate. As you know, I like to, for this year in particular, we like to start the podcast off with a grateful. So do you have a grateful for us today?
Mate, I'm just pretty grateful to just have the opportunity to do what I do, mate. To be honest, it's, I think for me and being given the opportunity to play footy, but now work in the industry and in the game as a commentator and also as a player agent now, mate, I just couldn't have dreamt of that as a young kid. I think as a young fella, you just want to play first grade. You just want to play 1 minute. And it's just a bit surreal, but I'm grateful for it every day.
Yeah, it's unreal, mate. And that's one of the obviously one of the things I want to touch on. Me and you've had conversations away when I first got back about the management stuff. So I'm keen to see where that's all going for you now over the last couple of months. But my grateful is like we spoke about just before we come in. It's for the OGs, Braith. It's for your OG mate. My age, I had a round of golf at Magenta Golf Course up in the entrance yesterday with a couple of my mates that we grew up with. Obviously playing footy over the years, I feel like you can bracket your mates from throughout your life. You've got your footy mates, and then you're able to create relationships after that as well. But shout out to my OG mates that I played with yesterday, and I know you're big.
Magenta, tough course, isn't it, Magenta?
Mate, I'll be better for the run. Put it that way. I think I shot like 125.
Stay positive.
Yeah, it is positive, mate. We're trying to stay positive. We're trying to be grateful. I'm grateful I got to play that course, but really difficult course. I've been shooting
tee shots.
That's it, mate. Feel those dog legs,
so you'll be better for the run.
And I was getting
that you tipped lately, eh?
Yeah. Wait, come on, mate. I told you, we're trying to stay positive. But moving on, mate. Like you touched on one thing in particular that I wanted to speak about. When I first got back, I was looking to get into management myself. I come down and sat down with you because I just found out that you just got into it. Potentially linking up with you in the future. But, obviously with all this stuff's happened, I've sort of been focused on this stuff as well. How's that all been going, mate? How have you found it? The pros and cons are sort of where you're at right now.
Yeah, Scope, it's been unreal. It's funny that, we sat down only was a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, it might have been about a year and a half. Like when I just got back. Yeah.
And you were a bit of at a crossroads and not sure. And, mate, look what you're doing now. It's been great. So, but at the time, you're right, I would have loved to have you on board, but it was right at the start. We were only early doors and we probably didn't need it at that stage. Yep. So, but it's been a real eye opener, mate. So I started a management company up 3 years ago. I've got 2 business partners. One Jason Hong, Justin Keynes. One of our Jason lives over in Singapore, runs a really successful business over there. Grew up in Oz and wants to come back at some stage and get involved more. But it was, we kind of just. We're looking after golfers. I love my golf, like we just spoke about. I was mentoring a few of the young fellas, and there was a real gap in the industry there where they just probably needed some help. And
in particular in Australia.
And over in the States, you got the big companies like IMG who they have the NFL baseball. They get the big golfers, but here in Australia, there's probably 1 or 2%, not even. Like if there's that. Probably the best golfer and maybe 2 or 3 get picked up and go to Europe or in the States to play college or play on the European Tour or whatever it may be, but they get picked up by the big agents, the guys that can leverage their position and get them starts overseas and, gives them a real advantage and gets them to where they want to be. But there's hundreds of other golfers who are just behind them who don't have the same opportunities because they don't have an agent as such or an opportunity or a team around them to get them from just say playing on the Oz PGA Tour here to the European Tour and the PGA Tour, which is where you want to be. So it was like, okay, how do we support these guys? How do we put a team around these guys? to try and get them there and probably be invested into a few kids. We made sure they had mental coaches if need be, fitness trainers if need be. I was like a mentor and still am for the guys. But I mean, long story short, I could go on all day. But that's
all right. Keep going. We've got plenty of time.
Over kind of like a 2 or 3 year period, we've been able to establish ourselves in the golf industry. We've got 14 professional golfers, a couple of young kids coming through who will turn pro, in the near future. And we've had a victory. We won the Malaysian Open with a guy called Trevor Sinsby just before COVID hit. We've had Anthony Quayle won the Queensland Open just before COVID hit. So we've established ourselves on a global stage now too, where we've got Naoki Sakito, who's a top 3 or 4 players in Japan now, and we've got someone on the ground working for us over there, Yukari, who used to work for Titleist in Japan. So we've been able to sort of spread our wings, and in a short period of time, we've come a long way. We've got players all around the world now, but we're really happy with the team that we've got now. And a focus and emphasis for us at Serious Sports is to make sure that we have time to put into each individual. We don't want to.
We spoke about that.
Yeah. And being ex-players and being involved is that a lot of agents and again. Throughout this, I'm not targeting
bashing session.
I'm not saying that at all because I'm more positive too.
Yeah.
And it's
just ways to improve
on us, right?
Yep.
But it's hard not to us to be through that and have agents and all that sort of thing. Is you want someone who's going to put time and effort and just energy and be there for you 24/7. I think it's really important because these days it's brutal. Life's brutal, sport's brutal. You experience the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And how do you get through that? Not always does a player have the best family and friends that are there that are a support network. Not everyone has that luxury. We like to think most of us do, but not everyone has it. So
especially in the rugby league community as well. Like a lot of the guys have come from working class families and whatnot.
People don't understand that. They move away by themselves. They've been thrown into the big smoke. They've got to budget their own money. They've got to whatever, they've got to live life. They don't have that support network that a lot of people do. So with the golf, it's very professional. You're dealing with Nike, Titleist, Adidas, which you do in the league too. But it's very prim and proper. That's the industry that it is. It's there in front of you. These guys play every week for their coin, and we try and make them as much money as we can off the course, which is an advantage that I had with my just people I'd met over my footy career, good mates of mine who are very successful in business, like the Coogee Bay Hotel, for example, Chris Chung, Geo Hex, Matt Holloway. These kind of, I'd never used any of these guys. Well, Chris had supported me throughout my whole career, but I had a lot of these contacts that I didn't leverage throughout my career. I wasn't that type of guy. I wasn't that Jerry Maguire, player agent who would just, had the gift of the gab. That's not me. So I've had to jump out of my comfort zone there, but. Just giving these guys an opportunity to perform at their best. Now, the difference between we'll go into the league now.
Yep.
So the league was always going to be my baby, really. Like and again we spoke about it. I wanted to have an impact and get a core group and 10 or 15 guys who I could really focus on and again put a team around them. I've got my business partner Jason, very successful. He's like the wise owl. He's the mentor to me in business. Make sure they're making the right decisions. Wanting them to go. Out in a limb like you guys have and back yourselves in business, small business, whatever it may be, invest, try and build a business, get rid of it, shares, property, encourage kids to take a little bit of a risk, but a bit of a measured one. But anyway, again, putting that support network around them in terms of financial and having someone there as a mentor and just me being able to put time and effort into them on and off the field too, they need work on a certain part of their game. I've been through it all. I've been through scandals, premiership wins, wooden spoons, winning Origin series, losing Origin series.
Yes, there's not much. Grateful for all those experiences, though. Yeah.
But it's. I think it's rare that you can have someone that can keep it, be there honestly. And so I've made some horrible decisions, and I've made some really good ones. But I think it's an advantage for me to kind of. Have these kids and have a sounding board there for them,
Yeah. Well, so how have you found it in particular? Because when we first caught up, looking at getting into the industry yourself, I'd spoke to a few people. Actually, I won't name the names. We'll keep it. And they said they were struggling in particular, trying to break that mold of, if you've been in league, there are probably like 4 or 5 big companies and they control a lot of the. How have you found? Because there are, from I'm not saying anything to do with my management company or anything, but throughout the years there have been a lot of broken promises from some of the managers, and then they promise the world and they don't quite deliver. So how's it been trying to convince some of those kids that, look, I've got like a core group, put all that focus in here, whereas like, no, this guy's got Jonathan Thurston and this guy's got Cameron Smith and dealing with all that sort of stuff.
It's a different world, because we'd been working on the golf for 2 or 3 years, got my accreditation with the league, and the league were pretty. They all kind of wanted us to come in. I think they could see they probably need a little bit of change there. It's a dog eat dog world.
Yeah, it still is, because this is like we had that conversation 18 months.
500 agents. Yeah. You got guys going and signing 13, 14, 15-year-old kids up on 4 and 5 year deals, mate.
I thought they put an end to that, though.
Yeah, they're changing it there.
Yeah, they can get out of it quicker
17
now.
years of age, you can get out anyway. So you sign
sweet.
it, and it's listen, I'm all for all these changes. So if you're 17 now, as soon as you turn 17, you're not happy with your agent. But again, you know what it's like too. We just spoke. If you're a young kid and you sign with, most leagueies and most Aussies are very loyal. Like if you want to stick with these,
Sometimes you're a bit intimidated
too. So it's hard.
Even though they work for you, you think like they're your boss.
That's right. But it's obviously there's a big power game there, and there's some big guns in the game who can leverage their talents that they do have. They get their players to talk to others, and that's the way the business works. It always will be. It's for me coming in, I didn't want to be that agent that kind of focused on the young kids too much and signed them up at a young age. But the fact of the matter is, and what I've learned is, if you don't get these kids at a young age, you'll never get them. They sign on long-term deals, very loyal. They want to stick to who they're with. But it's for us, it's not worrying about anyone else. It's kind of worrying about our own backyard. Yep. We're very confident in what we provide and what I can provide to a player. And I think you just got to, mate, you got to invest. I find it hard to believe if you've got 30, 40, 50 clients, how you can give everything you've got into that individual client. I find it hard if you've got 2 or 3 5/8s at the same club, or like how can you possibly be
conflict of interest? I had a few of those occasions where through no fault, like just because of the pure numbers that our company had, sometimes it was like, fuck, and most of them generally they're your best mates.
That's right.
Like because you're in playing groups too. Like when we do individual drills, we might break off, and then you're always hanging out with the halves, and I'm always hanging out with the back rowers, and you form these relationships, and then eventually it's someone's got potentially has to go, so it can be hard for both the players, the managers, coaches, everything.
I just think I think at the end of the day, agents probably should have a cap on how many players they have in
I think that's
the one
a good
side, and also with coaches. I think coaches could look after themselves a lot. You're talking about guys who they're very experienced men. I think some coaches could probably do their own, look after themselves, and I think the less we have of coaches being employed by an agent who's got 7, 8, 9, 10 players in a side, it can't be good for the club. It can't be good for the game. I think that's probably something that needs to be addressed. But mate, it's a different world. I've found it to be quite an experience. And I'm lucky. I've got my gig at Fox, so it's I'm very patient with it. I'm not in any hurry. I'm not going out there trying to sign 20 or 30, 40 kids. It's just not going to happen. So I mean that's the advantage I do have, is that I can kind of pinpoint, work out if they're the right fit. And then work hard with them to try and reach their dreams and their aspirations and get them to the top.
Yeah. So you sound like you're still enjoying the grind of it all, though. And
but this year I'm going to push
balancing it with the Fox gig.
I am. It's hard. It's been full on. 3 kids. Working with Fox, but Fox is 5-6 months a year. Then you do, unless you do a bit of golf stuff, it's kind of.
I was going to ask, because that was one of the things that we put down. What, when you go in an off season, do you throw all your energy into the management stuff, or you just enjoy a break as well? Like footy players, you try to get away from a little bit. Yeah, I usually would. I mean, obviously this year with COVID, we haven't been able to get away like we used to, but I'd definitely take the family away, and you need that time. I'm big on family and making sure I give to Rachel, my partner, and again the three kids. It's very important that you have that time put away to have that family time. It's extremely important to me. But the management stuff, because with the footy season goes till October, and then the golf season kicks in, the Aussie Summer. So normally the New South Wales Open, Australian Open, the PGA, all that sort of stuff. You had a few kids in the Aussie PGA when I first got back as well. We've had a lot, mate. Yeah. Like it's really, we've had a lot. We'd have 5, 6, 7 players in an Aussie Open, and PGA, so it's really exciting. But it's a good split for me pretty much, because the busiest time here with the Aussie golfers is the off season. So I keep very busy. But this year the golf hasn't been the same. But just quietly actually, we've got our own tournament, which is
on the first week of March at Bonnie Doon Golf Club.
Oh,
so,
yeah, unreal.
I'm hosting the event and Serious Sports is hosting it, so that's pretty proud for us too. We've only been in the game for a few years, and we're hosting our own tournament on the PGA, PGA.
That's
tour.
Unreal.
So,
congrats, mate.
Yeah, we're pumped about that.
We touched on it obviously a little bit with the Fox stuff. Let's move on to that.
Yeah.
It was quite a weird year last year. You're doing stuff like this more. We're speaking a little bit off air about doing podcasts, calling the games from at home. How was that last year for you, dealing with all that stuff? And what do you think the plans are for this year flowing forward?
Yeah, I've got a meeting next week with Fox, but it's pretty much go time now. Last year was probably, I would say, the busiest year I've had at Fox because we had to fill a lot of content and time. With COVID, everyone was at home. We've got the 24-hour channel there, and we're probably down a little bit, in numbers. We didn't have the numbers we had the year before. Cooper, Mick, myself, Brandy, all the boys were working on a lot, which I love. It's the best job ever. It really is. I'm very blessed to work in there at Fox, and so a lot of the games we had to call off tube last year, so we couldn't actually get out to the ground, which was a bit of a shame. I think you love the atmosphere and the crowds, and that's a big part of when you're calling a game.
A few away trips, like we said. It's right to get away to a few of those joints and get down to milk, as footy players.
My missus follows you. So
oh, yeah. No, hey, mate, enjoying a beer in a different...
Mate, she knows as well as I do. It's good to get away every now and then. The Melbourne trips or, even going to town. Townsville's not too bad, is it, Scabe? It's not a bad place to go.
It's a good joint. I'm hoping to get up for the Indigenous game. We just had Laurie in and potentially if COVID wasn't around, I think there might have been more access. So we're still waiting to hear back. Before we go up there, obviously we want to see what sort of content we'll be able to get with the boys, what sort of access. Yeah. But mate.
Oh, fingers crossed you get
Townsville
some good
trip,
access there.
some of the better trips, those Townsville trips.
Mate. Lasting memories. Yes, but with Fox this year, it'll be I'm assuming it'll be very similar. A lot will depend on the bubbles, which there isn't any at right now. But depending on COVID and how that goes, it's I think we're pretty full on. I mean, we're very passionate in there about giving the best possible broadcast that we can and in-depth analysis, and we've come a long way over the past sort of 5 or 10 years. So it's we're really pumped for this year.
Yeah, and like I said before, in particular the content I love that you were doing is breaking down the games and doing this sort of stuff. Like I think there was a real gap in the market. You break it down before the games, but sometimes it feels a bit like rushed. Yeah. It can be a bit like you've got 5 minutes. Sometimes it feels like you guys only got like maybe 2 or 3 minutes to speak about the game. Whereas with that content in particular, when I sat down with you, Mick Ennis, and Coops in particular, and you guys broke down footy, like I really enjoyed that side of it. Yeah,
I love that too. That's kind of that's my and Coop. I mean, Coops and Mick the same. I think even Brandy, but
Brandy.
That's what we'd like to think we're probably most strong. I think it's hard to find that balance in a broadcast where you don't want to lose people too. I mean, we're tragics, and a lot of people that listen to you guys and watch you guys here are similar, and they love it. And I love it too. You want to try and get into the brain of the coach and the players, and also get into the brains of the Mick Innes's and the Cooper Cronks and Brandy and the likes, and try and work out exactly why these players are doing it, how they're doing it, how to execute it, what goes in behind the scenes, and how does a coach and a team break down an opposition, how are you going to beat that opposition, where are their weaknesses, where are their strengths, set pieces, pet plays, idiosyncrasies, whatever it may be. It's something that we love doing in at Fox, and if we can do more of it, it's good, but it's hard to find that. You got to, there's, in a broadcast, you got to kind of try and, because not everyone loves that too. Like
it's not like people that would watch the footy show back in the day to come and have a giggle on a Thursday night. That's it's a different form of content.
They're pretty broad with that, and they probably don't go as in depth as we do. But there's an audience for it. Some 100%. People prefer that. But some people prefer really getting into it and working out the game of rugby league and why teams are so good and why maybe they're not.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And what about, we've always thought that you've been a big supporter of us at YKTR Sports. We're sort of coming in. It's not like, the way that we look at it is we feel like we can do our own form of content, and then obviously you guys, Fox Sports and Channel 9 always being the big dogs, but we appreciate, you always sort of communicate with us, have you been, I'm a big fan, thoughts of us here at YKTR Sports?
No, I'm a big fan. I've been following you guys from day one, and I still do. I think there's a great market for what you boys do. I think you hit the, the Joe Blow, the guy next door and the average punter who just loves not only just rugby league, it may be the punt. You know what I mean? It may be everything. The clothing,
they don't even mind
drinking,
if you take an L.
They see me and he's mad. love sessions at night, whatever it may be. You know, but I just like the fact that you guys. I mean, put that all aside. I love it. Like you know, at Munster, I love seeing all the boys, and they love that. As you know, as players, we love that. You know, it's they're interacting with guys who and you show respect. You know, that's a big thing. You know, you don't. It's hard. It's you guys can kind of you got to. You know what I mean, but. You're one of the boys, which is really good. But for me, the way I look at it now, and as in the position I'm in now, is I think you guys backed yourself. I really encourage league players, current and past, to really put themselves out there a bit, and if you've got an idea, take it on. Whether it be the clothing, watches, podcasts, like back yourself. Put yourself out there. There's a real opportunity there for you. You've got to leverage the position that you are in, and the eyes that you do have on you, because they're not going to be on you forever if you don't get them. Or,
the younger
or keep
kids
them.
are so much better at that than we, like from our generation. Like obviously you're before me, and then I was sort of at the back end. Even in 2015, mate, you look at guys like Callum Ponga bringing out Goosey, like even guys a little bit older. Chad Townsend, he's got his own Cronulla Beer Co. Clothing companies. Dill Brand's got We the North. Mate, if we've done stuff like that back in, like obviously go further back to the start of your day.
Teammates are looking like you. You know what I mean?
You were bringing in your own shirt in 2004 to that doggies parade.
Mate, Barry Ward, Craig Polomano, mate, Steve Reid and all that. Yeah, it was a different world, right? But mate, I love it. He's doing a great job, mate.
I appreciate that. Going on, we'll just do a little bit of the generic footy chat. Yeah. Your thoughts on last year's Origin series? Did you like that at all? Do you think it'll go back to the normal format? And how do you see the season planning out? Maybe who's going to win it? Yeah, little daily M prediction. Yeah,
I think Origin will it'll go back to normal. Yeah. I did not like it. I just like it where it is.
Yeah.
Where it
I was the same. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it.
No, I didn't love it, but New South Wales lost too, so that didn't help. But mate, it was. I still enjoyed it. I still thought it was a really good series. I thought Queensland were outstanding. New South Wales probably should have won game one. They didn't. Game three, Queensland were incredible. Jai Arrow, Lindsay Collins probably had career games.
Those middles didn't get talked about enough.
They didn't.
Mate.
They don't get talked
Christian
about.
Christian Welsh, Tino, Big Tino.
This is the thing with Origin. Everyone focuses on the 7 and the 6 and the 9, mainly 7 and 6.
Yeah, definitely.
You need the engine room, mate. Yeah. You need the engine room. You're not
one of your old teammates, mate, who didn't get enough raps was Nate Miles.
Milesy.
Fucking Origin.
Exactly.
He was there.
And he was there when Coops and Cam and the boys, JT, Billy, were able to weave their magic because they had that engine room. They dominated, or else you don't get time and space to weave your magic like that those boys had. I mean, they're the greats of our game, but they probably got underestimated, and that was like this year. I think New South Wales just got dominated in the middle third of the field, and especially in that last game. Queensland's kick chase and play 1, 2 and 3, they just jammed. New South Wales gave them no time, no space and no momentum, and with Tedesco not on the field, they just couldn't get out of it.
Massive.
That hurt as well, but they just couldn't get out of it. I think I played golf with Freddie last week. I love Fred. He's he's a good mate of mine. We're close.
Freddie go good golf as well.
He goes all right. He's a natural, and we're playing Brandy as well. So I was playing with both of them. They're pretty hurt. They're pretty hurt. They'll bounce back. I think Fred, not going into detail, I think he probably second-guessed himself a little bit throughout the series and didn't back his instincts.
Yep.
And I think as a leader...
In what way? With fewer selections?
Fewer selections, yeah. And I think as a leader and as a coach, and whether it be league or any industry, business, if you're in the helm, you back your own ability and instinct, and that's why you're there. And I think
there's always hindsight too.
Yeah,
that gets you as well.
Like
whether you win or lose, there's always could I have done this better?
Yeah, and there's so much pressure in an Origin that there's so many outside noises. It's hard not to listen, you know. But that's where, and I'll move on to Wayne. That's why he's the best. He makes calls. He puts rookies in. But he never second guesses the decision he makes, and he puts trust into the player, and the player gives back. I think a big thing for New South Wales heading into this series, the one coming, is that whoever they pick in the 6 and 7, which is going to be hard, whoever they pick there, they need to stick for 3 games. Being there myself, and you've got to back your most important players. Your spine, the guys that are they're your heart and soul. You've done, and it's a short time to prep for a 3-game series. Yeah. To change key positions, and I think that's probably one area where that whoever that may be, whether it's Cleary, Cleary will be there, but whether it's Cleary, Whiten. Or Walker, I think all 3 of them can do the job at 6. But whoever they do go with, you need to stick with them for 3 games. You know, they'll repay you. They'll repay you with loyalty. You might win and lose one of the first 2 games, but game 3 they're going to say, you know what, we've got to give it back. You know, this guy's give us trust. He believes in us, and you'll see that in performance and probably results. I think that too much change just. I don't know, it's not good.
That's massive in all forms of footy. You're not even, you know, Origin is the pinnacle, and you know, in particular. But once you start playing consistent footy, and you know, you feel like there's nothing better than just feeling comfortable. And,
that's right.
And being able to play your role.
But how good is it when a coach backs you,
yeah,
even if you have an off game?
Yep.
You come up and go, mate. Listen, we know it wasn't. You know, you always know as a player,
yep.
but you know it wasn't one of your best. I know, but mate, don't worry about it. Let's go next week. You know, and I think that's a big thing. If you're talking about this year, I think Latrell's going to have a massive year.
I like the Rabbitohs.
Yeah, I do. I like South too.
Yeah, I like the Rabbitohs.
They'll be right there when the whips are cracking. Mate, and obviously, Arrow, you know, again, that Origin game was a phenomenal game by him, and I think he'll take a lot from that. But I just think Latrell coming into this, last year he had no pre-season. He had all that drama with the Roosters and South and the trip away. You know, he came in, unfit. You know, he wasn't quite ready, and he still had a good year. Yeah. He still had a good year.
No one's been talking about him this year.
No one, mate. No. And I've been talking to a few boys at South. They reckon he's flying, mate. Yeah. And I think that he'll work, going back to the Origin too, he'll work himself back into that side. They need him in that side. Yeah. He is too good of a player. Yeah. And all the water's under the bridge now. They made that tough call of dropping him. They went through that, you know, a bit of a, you know, they weren't on, you know, there's a bit of disagreement there between Latrell and coaching staff, whatever. But that's all gone now. And I really think this year will be massive for Latrell, big year for South, and Latrell will be playing Origin again. Yeah,
I agree, mate. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the season. We only want to chat a little bit about the footy stuff. Yeah. But like we touched on at the start, you know, you've got that golfing background. We've just got confirmed that we're going to be doing our inaugural golf day at the Coast Golf Club. We both play there a fair bit.
I remember that.
Wednesday, October 13th. Will you be available to play, mate?
I'm there. Have we got a loose gang? Who's
there's a good gang. So a few of the boys, I've sort of just been announcing them on the podcast.
So don't announce them now then.
No, so the ones that are confirmed, obviously the press who come up with the idea, Cam Munster.
He's a legend, eh?
The 257 Scallywags in Newcastle, Kalen and Connor have agreed to come on.
Good boys.
I think Ice broke it the other day. I was supposed to get Bren and Kiri to come on and say that they were going to come in, but they're going to be there. And then as the year goes on, we'll announce a few more. But we're glad to have you on board.
I'm there. Can't wait.
Yeah, so it's looking forward to it, mate. We're gonna have sponsored holes, novelty holes. Yeah. It's gonna be the shotgun format where we all kind of start on a hole each, and there'll be 18 holes. So
cool.
Look forward to having you there, brother, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
It's been a pleasure, mate.
Cheers, legend.
Cheers, mate.